Hi everyone, Shavuot Tov, Good Tov, Good Yom Tov, welcome back. This is part 4 of the Maamar Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu. This is the Maamar the Rebbe said on Gimmel Tammuz in the year Tavshin Chaf Daled, 1964, which today, the final part of the video, it's being said, right now it's Gimmel Tammuz in the year Tavshin Pei Hey. May we tap into this energy of Gimmel Tammuz, whatever Gimmel Tammuz means to you, and we should, increase in those ideas of Gimmel Tammuz, which ultimately it should be the Geula Shlema. So with that, we will jump into the Maamar with a quick recap. Where, from last video, we talked about Bittul, Mesiras Nefesh. Hashem being just Hashem, like we said in the pasuk Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, implying that Hashem Elokeinu is tafel, secondary to us, because our Avodah is the primary thing. And what does it mean, our Avodah? Our service to Hashem, and being nullifying ourselves to Hashem, being Mesiras Nefesh, even things that are not al pi din, according to the Torah law, that we have to be nullifying ourselves to. We have to sacrifice ourselves to. We should achieve that level, because that's our primary goal. As our Avodah, our service to Hashem. And we talked at the level of being Bittul, because I want to be Bittul, I want to serve Hashem, but that is a level to achieve. However, there could be a flaw in that, because it's from your own want. I want to be Mesiras Nefesh. Then therefore the way you approach your Mesiras Nefesh can be changed. It can be affected by many factors, including yourself. You might be something that will change the service to a negative way, chas v'shalom. However, when the person's bittul, the nullification, and the Mesiras Nefesh, his sacrificing his soul, is not because he wants it, but because this is what Hashem has demanded or wants from us, where he's just doing because what the Creator has requested, then there's no room for any change, and it's just going to serve Hashem in the way it's meant to be done, in its pure form, because it's all for Him. It's the way He wants it. Now, with all that, and I would recommend, if this is the first video watching, to go watch the other videos so you can get a better picture of what I just recapped, because maybe it's not the best recap. But with all that, we'll finish the Maamar. We're in chapter chapter 5, and let's get into it. Those who are following, Shkoyach, it really helps, I guess, for you to understand, also see the words. If learning Hebrew or reading Hebrew is something tricky for you, I go through all the words and I translate them to the best of my ability, and they're pretty good translations, I believe. So going through the words, it's really important. Good for you, good for your neshama. And with that, let's continue. So here we go. This is what it means when we say Hashem, our God, should be with us or will be with us like He was with our fathers. Okay, what does it mean? That the service in our fathers, okay, so now we're going to connect it to the forefathers. They emphasize the two ideas that were mentioned before. What are the two ideas? That the fact that they performed, or they fulfilled the whole Torah, even though it wasn't given to them, they were before Matan Torah, before the giving of the Torah, but they still nevertheless performed all the Torah and all its mitzvahs. So this, what does this mean? This is from the aspect that their service, and emphasizes that their service was not because it was a commandment from above, but rather because of it was coming from themselves. This is what we were saying, that this not from the Gilui Milamayla, the wonders and miracles that Hashem gives us, that kind of encourages us to learn Torah, which is learn Torah and do mitzvahs. This is good. It is something, and it does help us, like we said, but it's not the ikr, it's not of primacy. It's not the primary thing. The primary thing is that it should be our avodah, our yiras shamayim, our same talsam alechem. Put yourself for a king. choosing a king, Kabbalas El Machal Shemayim, all of that, it's coming from yourself. I'm doing the work. Not that Hashem's giving me all these wonders and miracles and these rewards and riches, and therefore I'm going to do the work. No, I'm doing the work. I'm going on myself and doing the work. So this was emphasized in the fact that the forefathers, they weren't given the Torah, they weren't given its commandments, nevertheless they still did it. So that emphasizes that idea. But Afal Pikein, Hayu B'tachlis Bittul, Da'avis Hein Hamer Kava. So even though it came from themselves, we talked about this idea that someone can have Bittul, they can be Mesiras Nefesh, but it's coming from themselves, and therefore that can influence if they're doing the correct service. If it's coming from their own calculations, their calculations might be off. Or maybe there's something that might influence them to do something, to veer off in the wrong direction. So that can be like a side effect when it comes when it comes from your own self. It's still good, but there is wiggle room, I guess. But nevertheless, we're saying with the forefathers, nevertheless, their Avodah, they had the ultimate nullification. We say about the Avos, it's brought down in Midrash, maybe. It says that they were the chariot. What does it mean that they were the chariot? I'll just read on and explain. But the Bittul Hamerkava laharaychev hu Bittul b'tachlis. The nullification of the chariot to the driver of the chariot is the ultimate nullification. The Bittul Hamerkava laharaychev hu lo mitzad haratzon hamerkava sheraita liyos b'tei laharaychev umerkava alav ela mitzad haraychev. So the nullification of the chariot to its driver is not because of its own will to be. It's not because of the rotten of the merkava that the chariot wants to be nullified to the driver and be a chariot for him. It's not like the chariot saying I want to be a chariot for my driver. It's like rather it's just because the driver is driving. And therefore the chariot is driving. So put it in like more simple terms, more understandable phrases. Yeah, if someone has a car, the car is not driving because it wants to drive the driver. Maybe these days you have these self-driving cars, but either way, the self-driving cars are not driving because it wants to drive. It's driving because the driver or the person in control puts in the location, or not a non-self-driving car. The person who's driving wants to go certain places, and therefore the car takes it to its place. Not because the car wants it, but because of the driver, the person in control. So too, when we're saying the Merkava, this is like I can go into Kabbalistic terms, but I'll just keep it simple. Hashem is the driver. Hashem's in the driver's seat. He wants to go places, and he uses us as his chariot, as his vehicle, and he wants a functioning car that does what he wants. So therefore, we need to be that functioning car, not because we want to be his functioning car, but because he needs that functioning car. It's still something if we want to be his functioning car, but it's not the same as when the car is functioning because of Hashem's decisions. Both of these are still better when the car is not functioning, when someone's not being a chariot for Hashem, whether it's from his own will or from the will of Hashem. It's still good to be a chariot of Hashem rather than not being a chariot. But nevertheless, the forefathers, they were coming from their own selves. That they weren't commanded from Hashem. They didn't have this commandment from Hashem to do Torah mitzvah. So it was coming from themselves, but it was from themselves being chariots for Hashem because Hashem needed a chariot, not because they wanted to be a chariot. So that's with the forefathers. So the Keva Bittul yesh kama v'kama dargos l'chein mevakshim Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu kasher hayom avasenu sha'in de Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu habittul shalanu lelakus Yehi kasher hayom avasenu bittul hamerkava. So since that with nullifying yourself, there are several levels. Here we kind of only talked about two levels. There's nullifying yourself where it's because you want to nullify yourself, and there's a nullifying yourself where because there's Hashem that needs you to be nullified, and not because of your desire, not because of your will. But they're like, let's say there are even more levels, in betweens. It's like a spectrum. So because there's different levels of being nullified, therefore the request for Hashem, our God, to be with us, how He was with our father, is that the idea that He should be with us, Hashem, our God, should be with us, that the nullifying, or our nullification to godliness, should be like how it was with our forefathers. The ultimate nullification being the chariot to the driver. That was the request when that was the request aspect, or when we say Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, the request aspect. When we talk about, there's a request aspect and the promise or the assurance aspect, the bakasha and the haftacha. So the bakasha, the request is that we should have this same nullification how our forefathers have, and that's for Hashem. Okay, so that's chapter 5. Now chapter 6, the last chapter. So alpi ze yesh levar ma she'amar balai hageula mir zayin doch nit gleich zu avosenu welke zayin geben balai besidas nefesh befeil. So according to everything we just said in this Maamar, this is like the wrapping up paragraph, that wrapping up chapter, we can explain what the Previous Rebbe said. The Balai Geula said on Gimmel Tammuz, said we are not comparable to our forefathers, for this is something we didn't say before, but the Rebbe brings more of what the Previous Rebbe says. He says Velke Zainen Gevin Balai Mesiras Nefesh Befeil. They were masters of Mesiras Nefesh in actuality. That's, I guess, like just showing that's what the Previous Rebbe was talking about when we're comparing. So the Previous Rebbe said mir zainen, like we are not, like mir zainen doch nit, we are not, and the Rebbe is emphasizing that he's including even himself. So how can we explain this? Ki amitis ha'inin the mesiras nefesh hu kisha mesiras nefesh hu mitzad Bittul kenal sifdala. So because the true idea of mesiras nefesh, of sacrificing the soul, is when the sacrificing of the soul is because of the Bittul, not because of like we said in Sifdalad in chapter 4, not because you want to sacrifice the soul, but because you're nullified to Hashem and you're sacrificing yourself. And since we said there are several levels, we just said in the chapter 5 that there are several levels in nullifying yourself. Therefore, so therefore, there is there's room to say why he would say on himself, even from like the aspect of being humble, that he's saying even himself, whatever aspect he's lacking in the Bittul, in his nullification, his Mesiras Nefesh should fill that up. Whatever that's lacking, the Mesiras Nefesh should fill the space of whatever he's lacking, because there's so many levels. He's on one level, would be on his Mesiras Nefesh, his Bittul would be on such a high level, but because of the humility, he would admit, or he would agree that there's still higher levels to grow until the ultimate nullification. So he would say on himself, but at the same time it would apply to those, I guess, on a lower level of nullification, that there's always room to grow on being nullified to Hashem and on your Mesiras Nefesh. So therefore it makes sense. It's connected. It works for him to say on himself, "Mir zayin doch nit gleich zu Avosenu," that we are not comparable to our forefathers, because they are the top, and there's always room to get there. There's always, I guess, something lacking until you're there. And when you're there, then there's no room to include yourself in this, I guess. שבהבקשה יהי הווי אלוקינו אימנו נכלול גם הפרש שיהי לשון הבטחה ואת זיינן מיתונס. So now we explained the whole idea. We explained the whole concept of how there's the request Hashem should be with us, how He was with our forefathers, meaning we should have that same level of nullification to Hashem in terms of Mesiras Nefesh, like it was with our forefathers, and we should reach that. So that's the request part, the davening part. But now we're going to say, we can also explain how there's in what the Previous Rebbe said in his request, that there's also the idea of the assurance or the promise, the havtacha, that Hashem will be with us. We said He should be with us, and now He will be with us. Vet sein mit uns. Ki ze shetfila bekasha v'havtacha heim shnei inyanim sheinim hu ki tefila hi bekasha adam v'havtacha hi melamayla. To explain this is because how we're going to explain this is this, that davening, which is a request, and assurance, like assuring something, havtacha, they are two different ideas. And why is that? Is because davening is a request of a person. It's a person requesting for something, and the havtacha, the assurance for something, is something from above. Hashem can really be the only one who decides what's happening, and He's going to assure if things happen a certain way. So the gam b'tzadikim, also to with tzadikim, kasher hey mitzius, when they have a mitzius. What does it mean a mitzius? Like an existence, even a little bit. I'll explain a bit what that means. But when they have existence, when they have even a little bit of an existence, tefillah v'havtacha heim shnei inyanim, a davening and an assurance for something, like the request and assurance for something, they are two ideas. They're two separate ideas. Like we said, when there's the davening is like a person davening for something, he was requesting for something, and the assurance is something from above. So starting with a tzaddik is not really much different. That, okay? The havtachas tzaddik he b'shlichusay shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That whenever he says a havtacha, an assurance, he's only just being a messenger from Hashem to send this assurance. And then when he davens, he's davening for himself. Okay? And that's when it's a tzaddik who has a metzias, even a little bit. What does it mean, metzias? He has a feeling of himself. He's not like our forefathers, where they're completely nullified to Hashem, where obviously they have an existence, but they don't have that feeling of the existence, where they're just a complete, pure messenger, I guess, but like pure on the pure level, where there's no them being intermingled with that message. Hashem sending His message through this tzaddik, and if he has no metzias, meaning he's completely nullified his existence to Hashem, he's completely nullified himself to Hashem. Therefore, anything that comes from Hashem is not intermingled with his own ideologies or ultimotives. This is just purely from Hashem, and this is when we achieve that pure nullification. But not everyone's like that. You have even tzaddikim who are not like that, and there's a little bit of their existence involved. So therefore, in terms of them, you have their davening and their assurance are two separate ideas. When they bring an assurance, a havtacha, they're sending Hashem's assurance through, like if Hashem's assurance is being sent through him, and his davening is davening for himself. He's davening onto himself. Okay, but now we're going to go into what the opposite, where Masha Enkin Kishat Tzadik Hu Eifin Shigam Avodah Shalei B'Keich Atzmoi Shehi L'Chera Mitzios He B'Tachlis HaBittul Alei Gam About Tefillah B'Kasha Shalei Yesh Gam Inyan Havtacha. So now we're going to say, when you have a tzaddik, that he acts in a way that his service, even if it comes from himself, like we said with the forefathers, that they weren't really commanded to do certain things, to do any of the Torah or mitzvahs, they just did it themselves. And you could, like, I guess when it's when it comes from themselves, it's seemingly there is like a mitzias, there is them involved, but really they have the ultimate level of bittul, because they're just doing it all because it's Hashem's ratzon, Hashem's will. Then with their tefillah, their request, there is included in that the idea of the assurance that, like, when they daven, when a tzaddik on this level, where they're complete, like their existence is completely nullified to Hashem, and there's no even hint of themselves involved. It's all just Hashem. Even their davening, which is like seemingly a request, includes the idea of an assurance. Okay, so instead of being two separate ideas, it's all one idea. So yesh lahosif. So we can add Deme'ein zeh shegam metzias hi b'bittul hamshich gam behamekushorim v'shaychem alav. So that similarly this, this idea that hang on. This idea that you can have the davening and the assurance as one idea. This idea, it says even when there's, this is that even the Metzias is in Bittul, like I guess talking about the perfect level tzaddik, where he's like completely nullified to Hashem. He has no feeling of himself. He draws this idea also, like this idea of the two things, the davening and the assurance, the promising, the two ideas being brought together, they're brought down also to those connected to him, meaning his chassidim or his followers. So al yedei shasharish b'hem mesiras nefesh gam al inyanim she'al pi din tzivui d'lamayla ein mechoyav l'mser nafshe aleim mesiras nefesh b'tzad ha'adam v'shegam ha'mesiras nefesh al inyanim elu tiyeh ba'ofen shayach she'ein shayach klal ba'ofen acher mesiras nefesh b'tzad ha'elikus. How does he do it? That's through. Sorry, that sounds like a run-on sentence, but how does he connect? How does he bring this idea into his followers, those who are connected to him? It's like through that he enroots them. He roots them into the idea that the mesiras nefesh, their mesiras nefesh, will be in a way that it's on things that even are not obligated according to the Torah law to be mesiras nefesh on, and also. Meaning that the mesiras nefesh will come, I guess, from themselves, because if it's a mesiras nefesh coming from just from the commandment point of view, then it's like from Hashem. But when it's coming from a non-commandment point of view, there is themselves involved. Like when it's coming from themselves, but not just that, it's also sending their mesiras nefesh to a level where they're doing it in a way where there's no even possibility or even thought in their mind to do it in any other way, but it's just be sacrificing their soul to Hashem and to be completely nullified to Hashem, and not veer from anything, just doing it in the complete, perfect, straight path, where that's a mesiras nefesh because of Hashem. So it's including the two ideas, like we said, the from yourself, as well as when it's coming from yourself, it means going above and beyond. But the above and beyond is because this is what Hashem wants. So this is the perfect nullification, and the tzaddik, the perfect tzaddik, drawing that into the chassidim, into his followers, is bringing this idea together. ולכן זה שבבקשה תבעל הגאולה כלול גם עניין ההבטחה הוא גם מצד המקבלים. So therefore that in the request of the Baal HaGeula, of the Previous Rebbe, when he said Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu that Hashem should be with us how he was with our fathers, meaning that the not just asking that Hashem should be with us, not that Hashem should be with us how he was with our fathers, meaning we should reach that high level of mesiras nefesh, to the point where we give ourselves over, because not because we want to, but because that's what Hashem wants. That level, and also when we come out, go above and beyond, where it's not just according to the letter of the law, but because we sacrifice ourselves for all parts of Torah and all parts of life, for every little minute details. When the Previous Rebbe was requesting that, he also included the idea of the assurance, meaning we said that the assurance part, the request was for people, I guess, who need to reach high levels, and the assurance is for the tzaddikim of the perfect level. Now the Rebbe is saying that this is also connected to those who are connected to the tzaddik. So when the tzaddik is saying such a request, which also includes an assurance, the assurance aspect is also related onto his followers, into his receivers. That was a little bit complex, maybe, but let me see if I can. Pretty much, what did we say? We said that Hashem, Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu. We meant in the part where we explained that Hashem should be with us meaning that our service is the primary importance. Not that Hashem Elokeinu is there, where we have the revelations of God, but we are doing things from ourselves. We're deciding that we should have a king, we should serve Hashem. And that's a high level. We're nullifying ourselves to Hashem. And we said, ultimately, it should be like how our forefathers do it, where they did it from themselves because they weren't commanded from above. They weren't commanded by Hashem to learn Torah mitzvahs, to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. They did it from themselves. However, we said they were the perfect chariot, where they just did everything because this is actually what Hashem wanted. Now, seemingly you would think that if Hashem wanted it, then He would tell us. But then there's lacking the fear of Hashem, which is something that's a treasure for Hashem. Hashem wants that higher level, He wants that treasure. If He commanded everything, then we're doing everything out of love for Hashem, because we love Hashem. He will do what He tells us. But if we go above and beyond, and we do things not because He told us, because He wants that, then that's a higher level. And we're saying that in the Previous Rebbe, when he was saying Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, he was saying that and he included himself, because there's always higher levels to achieve in terms of nullifying yourself to Hashem, until I guess the level of the forefathers, whether you completely remove you remove yourself out of the picture, and it's all just for Hashem, and you're just being the perfect chariot for Hashem. That idea, he's saying, is not just connected to him, but it's connected also to those who are connected to him, meaning his followers, his chassidim. And it's coming from the promise and from the assurance that it actually will happen. So that when the Previous Rebbe is saying this will happen, he's giving us the strength that this is something we can achieve. And now the Rebbe will conclude with that it should happen, it should be fulfilled, the promise, the assurance that Hashem, our God, will be with us, how He was with our forefathers, and He should not leave us, He should not change us, nor forsake us. And therefore, this should be fulfilled. The promise of this happening should be fulfilled. And it should be for all Jews. There should be light in the spiritual and in the physical. This last one was the completion of the Previous Rebbe sicha, and this is how we're concluding our sicha, concluding our Maamar, that the Rebbe is saying, and we can say Bittul is like the Rebbe is, I guess, adding an extra havtacha, an extra assurance. This is something that will happen and can happen and is happening as we speak. There should be this level of our self-nullification, our mesiras nefesh for Hashem. We should be a complete perfect chariot for Hashem on Gimmel Tammuz. This is the day to do it. Don't wait for any other day. Start now. And with that, there will be ultimate light in our spiritual and physical aspects of a light, and it should be the ultimate geula, and we should experience that now. And it starts with our service, not with Hashem's revelations from above, but with our service, because ultimately our service and our ultimate service, not just fulfilling Torah mitzvahs according to halacha, according to the laws of Torah, but going above and beyond and fulfilling every single thing we do with mesiras nefesh, sacrificing ourselves, ready to do anything for Hashem, and also with simcha, should be doing it with happiness. And with that, this is how we'll experience an ultimate reality, which is happening now. We just need to open our eyes. The ultimate geula shlema. L'chaim. Good job, Tiv. Shavuot Tov. Yehi Melech. L'chaim.